One moment. Now, I don't know, have we marked page 147, which is where we're going next?
I believe that we have, just because it's no longer in this group of documents. But I don't know, I don't have it cross-indexed by, for instance, the Bates stamp number in the current list of exhibits.
All right. I guess, are you able to have it in front of you, or I can find it in my pile of exhibits? What's easier?
Well, do you have any identifying information about the document itself, and that way might be able to dig it up from the current list of exhibits?
It's an August 4th email from Ellen to Renata.
All right. Okay, yep, it's exhibit 10.
Perfect. All right. Do you have that email in front of you?
Yes, I do.
And you received this email, correct?
Correct.
So on August 4th of 2021, this email from Ellen says, I was told my credit card would not be honored as of July 1. I was told this on July 2.
Mm-hmm.
So do you remember reading that?
I'm sure I read it. Yes. Yeah.
And you never told Ellen that that wasn't the case, correct?
Can you repeat that question? Told her.
You never told Ellen that, in fact, you had not told her on July 1 that the credit card was not hers.
I told her before July 1 that as of July 1, that credit card is to no longer be used for school purchases or purposes.
And do you remember telling her that Lumen would no longer reimburse her for payments made on that credit card?
I never talked to her about payments being reimbursed to that card. My communication with Ellen was before July 1, that as of July 1, that card is to not be used for school purchases. As of July 1, that was a church-only card.
Were you involved in the church finances in any way?
No.
Okay. So you don't know if that card would be used for church purposes.
It is used for church purposes. A church member had a copy of the card.
But the church finances would be between Ellen and the church, correct?
Correct.
Okay. All you told Ellen was that as of July 1, Lumen charges couldn't go on that card.
School purchases could no longer go on that card.
Is there a distinction between what you said and what I just said?
My communication to her was that as of July 1, any school purchases should not go on that card because we now had a separate school credit card.
What would have happened if Ellen would have made a school purchase on that card after July, or as of July 1 or after?
I can't answer that. I don't have anything to do with finances. That would be something that would be discussed between her and another person.
The school ended up paying for charges after July 1. Is that correct?
I don't, again, I don't have any part in the bills or payments or anything like that. I cannot answer that question accurately.
Do you remember Ellen telling you on July 18th that she had a doctor's appointment on July 27th and that she would be talking to you around that time to let you know as to when she could return to work?
Am I remembering that fresh in my mind? No. I am assuming the conversation did happen.
Okay, let's turn. So, Exhibit 14 at the hearing, which you can find on complainants, Exhibit 22, starting on page, and I'm looking specifically at 65. Let me know when you have Lumen 65, which is hearing Exhibit 14 in front of you.
Okay, I'm there.
Okay. Now, reading through the information, sorry, do you recognize this email?
As I just glance over it, I briefly remember it, yes.
Okay, and you were CC'd on this email, correct?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so looking through this email, does it accurately describe the communications between you and Ellen?
You mean like, do you have a particular one in mind, Council?
Yeah.
Nope. I am saying generally. Does it accurately describe, because the bulk of this email is describing communications between Ellen and you. Does it accurately describe those communications?
If I can just take a minute to thoroughly read this over.
Perfect.
Okay. Yes, it describes communications that I had with Mrs. Kutz, yes.
And the description of those communications is accurate?
I mean, it states in here the communications that her and I had.
Okay, and is it accurate?
I mean, this was an email sent 2 years ago. I can't tell you that every single thing is in here or that something is missing, but it summarizes communications that we had in regards to her scheduled time off, days that she wanted to take off or come in, and that we would accommodate for, and communications in regards to potential stroke and doctor's appointments.
Okay, and is the substance of these communications accurate?
Objection. This has been asked and answered like 4 times
She
now.
has not yet answered the question. She continues to say what the document is, which we all know what the document is. It's in front of us. I'm trying to understand, does this accurately reflect her memory as to these communications, or does she remember it differently?
I'll allow the witness to answer the question. Go ahead, Ms. Tardy.
I don't remember, to the best of my knowledge, anything greatly different.
So it may differ in some way, but in general, it's pretty close to what you remember. Is that a
In
fair
general, this
characterization?
is the general communication that I
Okay.
seemed to have had with Mrs. Kutz.
So, do you remember Miss Kutz telling you that she had a stroke on the night of July 16th?
Yes,
And that was the day she had that stroke or believed she had that stroke, correct?
yes.
And then do you remember receiving a text message from Ellen 2 days later saying that she had a doctor's appointment on July 27th and she would let you know when she could return to work after that?
I remember receiving a text message from her.
And did that text message say that she would be out of work until at least July 27th?
I don't remember what that text message said, but I do remember having some text communication with Ellen.
Okay. Do you have any recollection if Ellen told you whether or not she would be at work between July 18th and July 27th?
According to this email, on July 18th, she notified me via text message that she would not be reporting to work.
And then you think that's accurate?
I imagine it is, yes.
And you think that next sentence is accurate too?
I believe it is. Yes.
Okay. And then do you remember receiving the email that's quoted here from Ellen?
Yes, I do.
And that's the email that she said she would send you on July 18th, right?
I mean, she said she would be letting me know. She's not saying that she would send me an email, but this seems to have a summary.
Okay. Is that your understanding?
I'm reading the email. Okay.
Okay, so do you remember receiving that email?
Yes, I do.
And so between July 16th and July 27th,
Hmm.
was there any medical development that Ellen didn't inform you of?
Objection calls for speculation. Lack of foundation.
I'll let the witness respond if she was made aware of any medical developments in that period of time.
She did keep us informed throughout the 2 weeks.
And then on July 28th, you told her she needed to provide a work excuse within 3 days.
Correct.
And she did that.
I did not receive anything. No.
Okay. She provided it to Carrie Brust, though, correct?
It's
Objection. We've been through all this. This is asked and answered.
Well, I'll let the witness answer. Ms. Doherty, to your knowledge, did Ms. Kutz provide the information to Ms. Brust?
to my knowledge, an email was sent with a medical note, medical documentation
All
to
right.
Ms. Brust.
And you didn't communicate at all with Ellen after July 29th, even though Ellen was emailing you?
Asked
Correct.
and answered. Objection.
I'll let the witness respond. Go ahead.
Correct.
Were you at all involved in SPI's, or I guess in SPI or Lumen's W-9 form processing? Was that a document you would ever come across in the course of your work there?
No, I never saw a W-9.
Okay, so you don't know whether Ellen filled it out correctly or incorrectly?
No, I did not see a W-9. That was not part of my job duties.
Okay, and talking about job duties, it wasn't Ellen's job duty during the 2020-2021 school year to pay credit cards herself, correct?
The 2020-2021 school year was a transitional year. I honestly cannot answer what the process was, how they phased out. That billing was to start going to the network office. I cannot answer that accurately. I don't know when that happened as far as Ellen no longer paying the bills and the network office taking over that.
Got it. But at some point it transitioned from Ellen paying to her providing the bills to the network office, and then they were paying?
Yes, but I'm sorry, I can't give you accurate dates on when that happened.
Got it. And who would have that date?
What date? Oh, I'm
sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. I misunderstood momentarily, but go ahead. My confusion.
That it may be Renata, as she oversees the finances.
Okay, so Renata would be the only person that would know other than Ellen?
I don't know.
Calls for speculation.
Well, she was the principal there. I think she probably has some idea. Go ahead, Ms. Doherty.
I really don't know who all would have been involved in that. I am not drawing my memory on who would have been involved in that transitional process.
When did SPI get a sub for Miss Kutz?
August of 20. We got a sub in for Mrs. Kutz in April of 2021. I cannot tell you the exact date. And then we got another sub in August of 2021.
So the sub in August of 2021, do you know when they started?
I believe it was, I cannot give you an exact date. It was maybe mid-August.
And what was the name of the individual that took over?
I'd object. This is beyond the scope of the direct.
Well, it is wide open cross in Wisconsin. Let me just go back though. I thought that Attorney Yerk had asked the question, when did this sub start in April? And then the response by Ms. Doherty was mid-August. So I don't know if those two matched up. So Ms. Doherty, did you want to clarify that answer?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Did you say April or did you say August?
I thought I said August, so we might be all off kilter here. Sorry. So she answered the question I wanted to ask. So we can have the record. I think we know that in April that how that went down. The name of the individual though that took over for Ellen.
Her name was Vicky.
Okay. Do you know her last name?
Boswell.
And was Vicky Boswell a previous SPI employee?
No.
Okay. And how did Vicky Boswell come to work at SPI?
She was, she came through a temp agency.
Do you know how old Vicky Boswell was?
I don't know how old she was. If I had to give my best guess, mid-50s, maybe late 50s.
All right. Let me just make sure. I think I'm nearing the end here. Is it your testimony that an individual on medical leave or who has requested medical leave must provide a doctor's note within 3 days of a request, regardless of their medical condition?
Can you say that one more time?
Could you read that one back?
Sure. Question was, is it your testimony that an individual on medical leave or who has requested medical leave must provide a doctor's note within 3 days of a request, regardless of their medical condition?
I don't process any medical leave.
But you were the one who asked Ellen for the documentation related to her medical leave, right?
I asked for documentation because she had been out for almost 2 weeks and I had no medical documentation excusing her from work.
Okay. And you said that school rules require that to be provided within 3 days, correct?
I can request medical documentation at any time, but for an extended period of time, after 3 days, you should be able to provide medical documentation excusing you from work.
So it's your testimony that someone would be in violation of school rules if they didn't provide you medical documentation the same day you asked for it?
It would be my understanding that they would be in violation of school rules. Is that,
Can you read that one back too? I'm sorry.
Question was, so it's your testimony that someone would be in violation of school rules if they didn't provide you medical documentation the same day you asked for it?
I don't think that ever was my testimony. When I requested medical documentation from Mrs. Kutz, I asked for it within 3 days.
And if she didn't provide it within 3 days, she would be in violation of the school's rules.
That would be a conversation we would have then had at that time on how to best proceed.
Okay, so it's not necessarily a violation of the rules to not provide it within 3 days?
It is a best practice to provide that. It was requested by Mrs. Kutz to have within 3 days.
Okay. And I'm trying to separate out what would be a rule violation versus what would be the best practice.
My request for her was to provide that within 3 days because
Okay.
it had been 12 and I had received nothing.
And she
My
told you
request
that she
was then to have something within 3 days, which she should have been able to provide to the best of my understanding.
well, she did provide it, right?
I did not receive it within 3 days.
Got it, because she sent it to Carrie Brust, right?
An email was sent to Carrie Brust.
And that email had a letter that was the documentation requested.
Objection
right?
asked and answered. I know I already objected to this and it's already been overruled, but I think that stands to strengthen the objection at this go round. I think this is the 4th time.
Well, I think we have gone over this before. So
The witness keeps hedging in a way that I am trying to explore what the issue is. The witness has not plainly stated a response to the question that I've asked. So I think I'm entitled to
There's
keep
been ample
asking.
testimony that it was sent by fax, that the principal testified she never received a fax, and Ms. Kutz herself testified that the fax was frequently kind of not working well.
okay. Well, nevertheless, I think the witness has already acknowledged that this document went to Ms. Brust, not directly to her. So what's the next question, Attorney Yerk?
Okay, so I'm trying to understand where those 3 days came from. There's no rule that says 3 days is the, I guess, time period with which you have to provide documentation, correct?
I believe in our handbook, it states like medical documentation after 3 consecutive days of absences. It needs to be provided, and my request to Mrs. Kutz again was I need documentation within 3 days, giving her time to provide that documentation.
Okay. And I guess I'm trying to understand because at some point, Carrie Brust sends Ellen Kutz an email saying that she was in violation of Lumen rules for not providing that information.
Objection. Document speaks for itself.
I agree. It does say that. I'm
Okay.
trying to understand if that's this witness's understanding of it.
Okay. Is that the question for Ms. Doherty?
Yes.
Ms. Doherty?
If that is what was communicated with Ellen, then yes.
Okay. One moment.